Hey guys, Ben from BE Health Studios. So this is series number 3 of 4 of my foundations of how to do anything with your body when it comes to health. So far I've done version 1 on sleep, version 2 on exercise, movement, that kind of stuff, and this is the 3rd. There is one more after this on stress, and this is all about food, nutrition, eating, that kind of stuff. So first things first with food. I think it's important that we recognise food as fuel. Now, I'm not using the word nutrition because that is a very in-depth subject that I don't think everybody fully understands, because what tends to happen when people try and lose weight or just try and eat a bit healthier, they get stuck in this massive information overload that is the internet, that is other personal trainers, that is celebrity trainers, that is TV information. You know, there's so much out there. So let's talk about food first. Let's just talk about eating, and let's talk about feeling, because that is what food is. That is what the word food makes us feel. So when I eat, what I'm trying to achieve is satiety. Okay, I would like to feel satisfied from when I eat. Now, that can come in one of two ways. Psychologically, I can tell myself that I'm full up and walk away from it and think, yeah, I feel much better. Or actually, I can eat something nutritious and subconsciously it just happens and I feel great. Now, what I mean by that is, if I eat 10 bags of crisps, at around about bag number 5, nutritionally, calorifically, all of these things, the boxes have to be ticked, but I just fancy some more. And until I tell myself I'm ready to stop, I'm not going to stop. Because there's certain foods, popcorn, crisps, high carbohydrate, high processed fat rich foods that are very low in nutrients, that our body doesn't really register when we eat. So when we're kind of eating these things, it's actually down to us to stop. And what I do with my clients, and what you should be doing, is when you're eating, just be aware that there is certain foods that don't hit the switch when it comes to going, I'm full, I'm satisfied, my tummy feels good. And you end up walking away and your tummy kind of goes, and then you think, oh, I'm fat. Well, actually, all that's going on there is you might have eaten a bit too much because you're not aware of what you're eating. So that's that side of things, food and eating. The next side of things I'd like to talk to you about on that subject is eating out, or enjoying special occasions that are marked with certain pieces of food, or even just those dreaded chocolates in the office, how to deal with that kind of thing. So let's talk about eating out first. Unless you are extremely lazy and don't like eating out, don't like eating in and making a home cooked meal, and you're eating out 5 times a week, I think it's an overthought subject, because most people eat out once or twice a week. Now, if you do that with how many meals you'll be eating in a week, you know, that's 2 or 3 is not really going to harm what's, a lot of meals. Now, then what happens with that is people go, oh, I'm eating out, so it's okay for me to have a dessert and to have burger and chips and this kind of stuff. And the thing is, it's totally fine to have that if the rest of your week measures up to it. But the bit that gets confused, and I will come back to nutrition in a second and actually why that's a problem, the bit that gets confused is their normal diet in the week, their regular diet, the thing that runs the cycle of their body, is the bit that's causing the issue. But then we blame it on a dessert once or twice a week, or we blame it on a trip to the cinema, or we blame it on that birthday cake or the chocolates at work. Well, what I'd like to tell you that I've learned with my experience is, we focus on the bit that's obvious and forget about the bit that's simple. So when you are getting in those situations, here's what I do and here's what I would recommend you do. Recognise the fact that you're sat across from one of your close friends, one of your family members, this kind of stuff, and it's their birthday. The cake isn't what makes it their birthday. The fact that it's their birthday makes it their birthday. Be aware that tomorrow's never promised. It's really important to be mindful of the situations you're in. So if you're out eating with your friends, you're lucky to be doing that. There's people that can't eat because they haven't got enough money. So if you sit down with your friends and go, I'm really glad to be, don't say it out loud because you sound crazy, but if you sit down with your friends and think, I'm really glad to be here, say, again, all in your mind, I'm really glad that I get to spend time with my friends. And, on those birthdays, remember that person was born that day, and it's a really great event for you to be there. And there's so much more to it in here than just cake, than just there's buffet food. And if you remember that, very strange things happen. You're able to stand there with your friends and have one or two things from the buffet, or one piece of cake, or what. Instead, if you're getting cake, because you're wound up about having cake, you're more likely to have that sod it moment where you have 3 bits of cake. The other thing, make sure you are satisfied when you get there. If your diet is running correctly, those meals throughout the week, when it comes to that day eating out or doing all those things, you'll have a hell of a lot more willpower because your stomach is satisfied. It's not been filled up on empty foods. So that brings me to the nutrition point that I was going to make. There is something called basal metabolic rate. If you haven't heard of it before, it's basically a scale that's been developed on your age, weight and height. And I know that's not, that's pretty subjective, but it gives you a benchmark to start off on. Now, you should always either speak to a personal trainer or get some advice on how actually to use BMR, because it's got the same massive problems as BMI. But for the purpose of this video, if you find out actually how much you're supposed to be eating, then it's as straightforward as making sure you're eating food that agrees with you. Now, that sounds simple, it's because it is, but we get wound up with, I've got to do wheatgrass this, or I've got to fast that, and all of that gets really, really in depth. And I've been doing this for a long, long time, and I understand those subjects this much because they're all very, very vast subjects that you can't understand unless you really dedicate your life to them. So what I would recommend is doing this. Find foods that are whole foods, meats, vegetables, all the foods out there that you eat them, and if after you've eaten them your stomach says yes, and that means you're not burping, you're not feeling bloated, you feel energized, great. If you don't, pop it on a list, and then you know that eventually after a week there'll be foods on that list that when you ate them you didn't feel very good after, and you avoid them. But I promise you there will be foods that you eat and you think, I feel quite good. And here's another subject that I'm going to touch on just finally before I wrap this up. Some of them might be carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are bad, they make us fat. No. Again, that's one of those subjects I said be careful about. Fitness is very dogmatic. There's a lot of information out there that says this is the way, this is it. Your body needs carbohydrates to survive. It's the type of carbohydrates you have to be careful of. Now, if you're one of my personal training clients, come to me and ask me about this. But to drop it in short, guys, let's take bread versus a strawberry. Okay? One contains a lot of fibre, and it's not bread, and a lot of nutrients, and the other one, when you eat it, makes you feel full for about 30 minutes. Your insulin spikes, but then when it comes back down, after about 30 minutes, you're hungry again, and there's a lot of waste product left over. One of them is really, really good for you and helps you get through the day and feeling good. The other one, you really don't need to be eating unless you're an athlete that's training 6 days a week. So, in summary, for this nutrition video, be mindful of what you're eating and where you're eating and what you're doing. It helps a lot when it comes to controlling the demons of, I want another bit. Because you don't. Just the crazy part of your brain that makes you do these crazy things is going cake. The next thing is, if you're eating enough of the right food, and if you don't know what the right food is, look it up, come and speak to me, try and find out, do that list that I explained. If you are satisfied when you're getting there, you stand a hell of a lot more of a chance. Other things is, make sure you don't get caught up in all of this nutrition information that's out there. Make your own opinion based on you learning a little tiny bit more. And the simple way of doing that is speak to a personal trainer, or just get out there and start learning about food. Look up a coach that you like the sound of, use your instincts. If they don't have their shirt on and they're telling you that you can do that in 5 weeks, they're probably not full on. But also look at reviews, use your common sense, start learning. And then finally, if your nutrition is spot on, you will sleep better. If your nutrition is spot on, you will move better. So these are all linked up together, guys, but the big thing that I need you to do with this is make sure you focus on your feelings and you, not your reactions. Ben from BU Health Studios, signing out.